6-year window. It's not the beginning. It's not the end. So where does it end? And when I say end, I mean the window stops being the window and tapers off to something else. It doesn't open and shut like you would expect in 3 dimensions, where something opens and the wind comes through and you slam it shut and the wind stops. That's not it. You gradually, as they might say, mushed into it, and you're gradually going to mush out of it, meaning it's gradual. The end of the window, 2030. You're close to it, but you're also receiving the energy that was developed at the fulcrum, 2012. Dear ones, you are at the height of the differences right now to be seen on the planet, and you're seeing them right now. It's so interesting that you can then take a step backwards and start looking at history, what has happened, including things that you've developed, including that which is the Me Too movement, the idea of cleaning up that which the church has been ashamed of for eons. These things never happened before, not in this way. And there are those who would say it could never happen because of human nature, because you can't change that which is the old energy. Well, you did, and it is changing. Countries are changing. Attitudes are changing. What people will allow and not allow within their own societies is changing. We've said it before, watch for that which seems impossible. Watch for that which is where the people start to object if their government is not doing them correctly, is not watching out for them correctly. And correctly meaning with integrity or honesty or transparency, which are the new words that people are starting to use, perhaps for the first time ever in the contexts that they are being used. This 36-year window is where you are. Most of you listening to this right now were adults when the window started. And if you were not, then you were born right in the middle of the shift. You have a completely different attribute. So where are you in all of this as you awaken from this coma of old energy? Now here is another fact about timing. When the individual awakens from a coma, in the movies, they open their eyes and all is well. And they remember everything and the relatives crowd around them and say, welcome back. It's not that way. The awakening, the recovery from eons of dark energy may last years. You start to be aware that there's something bigger. You start to learn. You start to fight off perhaps the old energy that tells you you're crazy because you start thinking differently. Then you start being cognizant of things that you never knew before. You meet people who tell you things to think about. And over a period of time, you're fully awake. That's the timing of coming out of the coma of darkness. And there are so many levels of it that you'll meet those who are still just awakening and others who awakened years ago. And they are different, and they sound different, and they're interested in different things because they're learning. How do you sit with all of this? I have just described an amazing, awesome phenomena, an awakening planet, and the gyrations of what happens when it does. These are the things I wanted to discuss with you and tell you about. I want you to relax with it all with yourself. Where do you sit in all of this? What were you doing in 1994? There are those who will say, is there time to complete what we came for? Yes, absolutely. When the window is over, it simply means that most of the actionable items will have occurred. And what is next then is a continued recovery. Into the light you go. Opening the door you are. So these are the things we wanted to tell you about today so that you will relax a little more within yourself. If you are feeling an awakening and you don't know why, or you're asking yourself, what is happening to me that I'm even watching this channeling? I know who's here. I'm in love with all of you for asking these questions. And the biggest one, is there more than I was told? The answer, oh yeah. And so it is.
And following that divine, love-filled message from Cryon, I invite you, bring your awareness back into your body, open up those eyes of yours if you've had them closed. And we're joined this evening by a cosmic guest by the name of Ishmael Perez. And I want to make sure Ishmael is on the Zoom feed with us. Ishmael, are you there?
I sure am. Hi, guys. How are you guys doing?
All right.
Wow. Well, we can already see he's out in the cosmos. I love your background.
That fits very well.
It fits beautifully.
Before I begin, I want to tell you that this next guest here, Ishmael, fits very well into what Cryon has told us about the light-dark battle that we're facing right now. In fact, the last few channels have really pegged it. We're talking about a specific time to shift. Remember that Cryon has told us repeatedly that the dark energy on this planet wants to fight the light that is starting to show and wants to take us right back to a warring civilization. Let me ask you, have you seen any of that? My guest sees it too and is invested in bringing us star seeds together in what he is calling a cosmic war. Ishmael Perez calls himself a cosmic ambassador who represents an intergalactic alliance known as the Covenant of Palador. It's a cosmic treaty that was initiated by the forces of light in the higher dimensions to protect and guard the earth.
So Ishmael knows that he is one of the inner council members who is here to bring forth the next level of cosmic disclosure that will restore our planet back to its original glory in fulfillment of the galactic prophecies. Ishmael tells us that the information he has to present has never been heard on this planet.
Ishmael is one of the elite super soldiers that is involved in this cosmic war. There's a book, and it's called The Cosmic Origin, available on Amazon. Also, there's a newer version of it. He's going to tell you here how to get it if I remember to ask him. Ishmael, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here. It's a great honor and pleasure. I've actually been a fan of Cryon for over 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, you guys were one of the Cryon, the entity that comes through has been one of my favorites to listen to, even throughout my journey as a younger starseed. And it is a great privilege to be here.
Well, and thank you for that. I didn't know that. So that touches me. I want to hear your story before you tell us anything about the book or anything that you're doing truly. Tell me the story of how this began, the realization of who you were and what you're supposed to do here.
Sure. So it all began when I was a kid. I realized that I was different. I am what you consider an awakened starseed, where I have full recollection of all my lifetimes of who I was before incarnating into human form. And one of the things that I noticed as a young boy, perhaps by the age of 4, is that nobody else was communicating with animals, plants, or trees telepathically the way I was. And I used to ask my siblings and cousins if they could also communicate with animals, and they would laugh at me. So that was one of the first indicators that made me wonder, like, what am I doing here? This realm, this earth, or this world does not seem familiar to me. And then as I grew up, I had an inner understanding of things. I never quite took everything that they taught me face value, especially organized religion. I was very rebellious in school. In elementary, especially, and again, throughout junior high and high school, now that I think about it. But I was always want to question everything. It just didn't make sense to me. It just didn't register. And so I felt from the beginning that I was different. And as a kid, I did explore this inner understanding of things. And unfortunately, due to my religious upbringing, I was not indoctrinated, but forced, you could say, to suppress my inner understanding of things. So I was forced to go to church. I was forced to pray the rosary twice a week for 2 hours, kneeling on my knees. I mean, my grandmother really wanted to, make sure I had no, make sure that I didn't believe in the stuff that I was talking about as a kid. They thought it was woo-woo, and they thought it was of the dark side, when I was talking about telepathy and everything like that. And so it wasn't until I probably was about the age of 15 that I started doing my own research. That's when I would seclude myself in a local library or even at the bookstore over at the local university and just read as much as I could. And I started reading philosophy. I got into Plato's Republic, which was a fascinating book. I read all of his works, by the way. I got into reading about Socrates and learning how to reflect and learning how to really just realize who we are as individuals. What he used to call know thyself and stuff, which made a lot of sense to me. I also got into political theory, volume 1 and 2. So I learned everything as far as like the open society is concerned, political theory, philosophy. I mean, I read every 18th century philosopher, but I wasn't yet satisfied. I didn't feel like that was the fields of information that I was gravitating towards. I almost felt like there was something missing. So it wasn't until I discovered metaphysical knowledge. At the age of 17, I had an opportunity to read great books that were written by Sai Baba, Babaji, Ascended Beings, the autobiography of the yogi. And those books really just resonated with me. And then that's when I discovered my niche. At that point, I decided to learn how to meditate. So I was taught Kriya Kundalini Yoga around the age of 18. And it wasn't until the age of 19 that I took it seriously, where I started implementing the breathing techniques and the visualization and everything that came along with that. And it took me a few months to actually reconnect with that aspect of myself as a kid, where I was somehow intuitively connected with nature, with animals, with people, with trees, plants, everything that was living. And so that rekindled, through meditation, that rekindled in me. And then that's when I started getting downloads. I wasn't quite sure where all this information was coming from. All I knew is that I had access to information that had never been written. And so that's when I realized that I was channeling my higher self, which is a galactic being. And by the way, every starseed out there, every celestial in human form that took the call to be here at this time, is operating in multidimensional avatars on different frequencies and on different timelines. So I came to the realization that I was actually accessing information from my future self, which also corresponds to my higher galactic self. And as a result of that, I started writing Our Cosmic Origin, and this was a book that was going to reintroduce the very essence of our origin, which is not what Darwinian portrays. Obviously, Darwinian evolution is very, very incorrect. And then, of course, it wasn't that simple theory of creation as imposed by organized religion, saying that we've been created, for the last 6,000 years by this bearded God sitting on a cloud. So what I did is, as a way to reveal the truth regarding our cosmic and celestial origin, I decided to write this book that actually tells us a different story. And the truth of this story echoes all the way to the higher dimensions where we descended from. So I came to realize that mankind on the earth was a final manifestation of a long process involving a descent that took place in the technically in the eternal spheres and in the always existing realms with no beginning or end. And then through the process of descending, which is the lowering of frequency, our consciousness descended into different octaves, into lower octaves, becoming lesser, more denser and denser. And so I came to the realization that humankind on the earth is the final product of a long descent that has been going on for billions of years. And that we are not the only human-like species here on this planet, but that we share a common ancestry throughout not only our galaxy, our universe, but throughout the entire multiverse at large. And for those that are questioning the idea of a multiverse, there is proof, by the way, through cutting edge science that we indeed, in fact, do live in a multiverse, that our universe is one of many universes. And there is not only scientific evidence coming through quantum science, superstring theory, amp theory, and unified field theory, but again, it also corresponds to the ancient esoteric wisdom that talks